Okay, we're looking here at strand 2.4, which is government intervention. Now, this topic has a bit of a macro feel to it, even though it's in strand 2, and strands 2 and 3 are mainly about micro. This is about the government, so it does have a macro feel to it, right? The reason it sits in strand 2 is because strand 2 is all about how are economic decisions made. And so when we say economic decisions, we mean decisions about how we allocate resources. And so far we've kind of said, as part of our study of strand 2, that the interaction of supply and demand will determine how resources get allocated. And we've kind of said basically that if you leave things alone and the government don't get involved, the market comes into equilibrium, supply equals demand, and everybody's happy. But in the real world, that doesn't really happen for loads of reasons, and there's plenty of reasons why the government does intervene in the economy. It's a small topic. Not massive amounts, I'd say, that you need to cover off from an exam perspective. The key things are knowing the government aims, and in particular, being able to have a few examples of how government aims conflict with each other. And then knowing the arguments for and against regulation, they're kind of the big things. We'll cover off the regulation in a later video. We're going to look at the aims of the government in this video. But much of what you encounter here, right, you're going to see again later on in the course, particularly in macro. So it's one of those topics that kind of intertwines with a lot of other ones. So if you're looking in the book there, and we're in book 1, right, which covers strands 1 to 3. So if you're looking on the platform and you go to subjects, economics, at the top of the page, book 1, strands 1 to 3, and we're on page 265, there is what we're looking at. So it's good to have it open in front of you. So on that opening page, not really a whole lot to point out. We'll just quickly have maybe a little bit of a look at Ireland as a mixed economy. So as part of strand 1, and strand 1 is a unifying strand, and the idea is, so what you encounter in strand 1 you see again, and as part of that strand we look at the advantages and disadvantages of different types of economic system, including a mixed economic system, and now we're looking at them again, which is very much the idea, right? So mixed economic system is one where you've got private enterprises, so businesses are out to make a profit, providing stuff, goods and services, alongside the government. So you've got a mix of both, right? So the benefit of that as an economic system are some of these. And there's been certainly on the new course, there was one question on an ordinary paper that said something like, I can't remember if it was define a mixed economic system or give a benefit of a mixed economic system, but there's been nothing on the new course about economic systems that we have seen exam-wise, right, at higher level. But anyway, the benefits of a mixed system are that you've got greater economic efficiency and innovation. So this is coming from the private company side of things. So private businesses out to make a profit, they're competing with each other. And to win business, they need to be innovative and they need to be efficient. And we benefit from that. We're getting the goods and services that we demand. So that's a big benefit of this system, is that we have private businesses who are doing that, who are competing. So that's really from the private side. Then from the government side, well, we've social welfare and greater equity in society as a result of government intervention. So in a free market society, a free market economy, the government wouldn't intervene at all. And those who are unemployed or elderly people, they wouldn't get any basic income paid to them with which they can survive. But in a mixed economy, unemployed people get unemployment benefit, job seekers allowance, and elderly people get paid a state pension. So there's greater equity when the government get involved like that. People without a job are basically getting a basic income to survive there. And the other thing there is that the government intervened to provide public goods. So in a pure free market economy, if there was no profit to be made from providing something, private company wouldn't provide it, even if it was necessary. So for example, let's take train routes to rural locations in Ireland. And let's say on those train routes to rural locations, there's only a handful of customers who ever buy tickets, and they're not profitable, they lose a lot of money. Private companies wouldn't provide those train services because they just lose money from doing it. But the government recognised that transport links and transport network and infrastructure is an essential part of a functioning country and economy. So the government step in and they provide those necessary goods, even though it's not profitable to do so. So that's one of the big benefits of this mixed system. So we've got private companies providing some stuff and they're efficient and innovative. Then we've the government also providing things that are necessary. And we also have the government stepping in to look after those who are on the lower end of the income stream. And then the last point is the government can also step in to try and control the economy, which wouldn't happen theoretically in a pure free market society. So if you look at what it says here, and this is maybe the most interesting point for me because it links very much with a lot of what macroeconomics is about. So the government can stabilize the economy through fiscal policies. So fiscal policy is any action taken by the government that influences the size, magnitude and timing of government revenue and taxation. Now, or government spending and taxation, really, or government spending and taxation, I should say. That's like the textbook definition of fiscal policy, right? But really, in very simple terms, fiscal policy is the government trying to control the economy really through the budget, right? It's the government trying to use the tax system or their own spending to try and control things. So that's really what fiscal policy is. And you should always come back to that. So yeah, it sounds like a complicated thing. Anything that influences the size, magnitude and timing of government spending and taxation. But it's all about just trying to use the budget and use taxation or spending to control the economy. And if you read the next bit, so the government can stabilise the economy through fiscal policy, mitigating the effects of economic fluctuations. And this is a crucial thing, right? So I would highlight this. During economic downturns, the Irish government can increase public spending to stimulate economic growth and employment. So in that one line, we have loads of what macroeconomics is about. We have loads. And if you can understand how that works, and I'm about to explain it, you're in a good place for understanding a lot of macroeconomics, right? So if you want to just scribble in there, an expansionary fiscal policy is the government controlling the economy by increasing spending So it's all about trying to control the economy through those two things, spending and taxation. So if the government are running an expansionary fiscal policy, they are increasing their spending and they're reducing taxation. And if you think of what the kind of the net effect of that is, if the government increase spending and reduce taxation, it all ends up with us getting more money. If they increase spending, like they're either increase spending by increasing social welfare payments, they're increasing spending by increasing the wages of people who work in the public sector. They're increasing spending through capital expenditure projects. So capital expenditure, long-term spending on things that are going to last a long time. So building stuff, national broadband plan, children's hospital, stuff that's going to last a long time. People get employed in those projects, creates jobs, creates incomes. So if the government spend money, it means more income for people. Or if the government reduce tax, that also leads to more income for people, right? So both of these things, the net result is more income. So if the government reduce tax, if the government reduce income tax, it means we pay less of our income to the government. It means we're left with more money. The net result is more income, and that means greater spending, and that's the key thing. So if you look at what it says here, during economic downturns, the government can increase public spending to stimulate growth and employment. So if the government during a recession spend more money, cut taxes, we'll have more money to spend, we'll spend that money, and that demand will get the economy going. That demand will lead to demand for output, and then to make that output, businesses will need to hire people. And you'll see that this is like when you, if you've looked at national income as a topic, see that the thing that drives aggregate demand, and that's a term we encountered relatively recently when we looked at demand. So aggregate demand is basically what you get if you added up all the demand for goods and services. If you added up every individual's demand for all goods and services in the economy, you get our aggregate demand, right? And aggregate demand is a function of consumer spending plus investment plus government spending plus the difference between exports and imports. That's how we derive our aggregate demand. That's where it comes from. But that C part of it, the consumer spending, is a massive part in driving aggregate demand. So if the government increase spending, the G part of that function is going to increase, right? But so is the C part. So two parts are increasing, and government spending is an injection into the circular flow of income. So these are things that we'll encounter later on, right? But I'm just introducing them now so you're familiar with them. It is definitely sort of theoretically a way that you get the economy going is expansionary fiscal policy. And that's a Keynesian idea. It's, again, linking back to strand one. So strand one, we learned about, you look at, well, what are our learnings from periods of economic history. And one of the things we learned from the Great Depression is the government need to step in. And it gave rise to Keynesian economics. And Keynes said, well, during a time where you've got an economic downturn, the government need to step in. And he actually suggested the government should borrow loads of money and they should use that money for capital projects. He said you can literally get people digging holes in the road. Just give people jobs. Once you give people jobs, you give them an income, that stimulates demand, and that gets the economy going again. It was like the money comes back to the government through taxation. So once people have an income, they spend it. So the government get indirect tax, so the equivalent of that. And also, when people are spending, it creates income for people. It creates, so they pay income tax. Businesses get profits, so they pay corporation tax. So that money makes its way back to the government can pay off the borrowing. So that's kind of the idea, right? A contractionary fiscal policy then would just be the opposite. So if you've got a situation where the economy has maybe grown too fast and the government need to slow things down, so what would they do? They would decrease spending and take some money out of the economy, and they would increase tax. So again, if you've looked at national income, you'll know that taxation is a leakage from the circular flow of income. So if you increase taxation, you increase a leakage, you slow down aggregate demand, right? So really there's a lot of macroeconomics in kind of that sentence anyway. And it does, yeah, you'll encounter a lot of what I said there when we look at national income. But this is the main thing here for this part.